There are thousands of items obtainable in Fire Emblem's long lifespan. Some are bought, some are given, some are stolen, some are found in deserts, and some ask the player to try a bit harder than usual to get them, from overly complicated and unnecessarily confusing to acquire conditions, to now defunct online features that make some items completely impossible, or at the very least, immensely difficult to attain. This video discusses these very weapons and items. Some, if you've been paying attention to this channel's recent videos, are those you may already be familiar with. Others, I'd be very impressed if you knew how obscure some of these end up being. Now, without further ado, here are Fire Emblem's hardest, and now actually impossible weapons and items to get in Fire Emblem. And guys, before this video starts, I worked really hard on this video, researching all the methods to get these weapons, so if you could please leave a like and make sure to comment down below at the end of this video, I would so appreciate it because this video took a lot out of me. Anytime I have to play Genealogy or Thracia, just know that it makes me have to try really hard to do these things. Fire Emblem Gaiden, Mystery Relics. Starting off with literally the most brutal RNG drop rates in Fire Emblem, period, are Gaiden's droppable items and weapons from enemies. The drop rates for these items of various quality are brutally low. The rates for these items are seen here. As you can see, these rates are insane. Shooting Star, or Ashera, is a lance dropped by a gargoyle and has a 0.014% chance to drop. In other words, literally 1 in 7,000. Why Kaga would do this is completely beyond human comprehension. But hey, it's Gaiden, bro. Why the Angel Ring of all things is as terrible, I have no idea. In any case, these specific weapons are so rare to see that I wouldn't be surprised if barely anyone even knew of their existence. Sad, since Shooting Star, Sun, and Moonlight weapons are incredibly good. Incidentally, these are the Echo's drop rates for such powerful weapons. Echo's rates are still pretty low, but they aren't as bad. Mystery of the Emblem Book 2's Iote Shield. The FE3 Iote's shield protects flyers from effective damage like bows. While usually a valuable late-game item from other Fire Emblem games, FE3 weirdly hides this item insanely early on in the game, and you wouldn't be blamed for missing it. In Book 2, Chapter 3, have a thief stand here, or anyone with a decent luck stat, in the T-shaped area on the castle gate, and there's a chance that you'll pick up this item. It's luck percent on all units and 100% for thieves. Genealogy of the Holy Wars items. There are numerous secret weapons and items in Genealogy. Here are some of the rarest and hard to acquire in Gen 1. The thing with these items, and most all of Kaga's secret items, is that you would likely not get some of these without prior knowledge first. They're easy to get, but they ask the player to wait in random areas with some random character out of nowhere, like Lex on Chapter 1, waiting on this area here with an iron axe in hand, so he can acquire the Brave Axe. Arden in Chapter 2, waiting in an area where no one would naturally ever think to place him, to get the coveted Pursuit Ring, which allows him to follow up on his attacks. Chapter 3's Windsword, which requires Dew to stand in front of the Bragi Tower. Chapter 7's Barrier Sword, which asks the player to have not paired Sylvia with anyone in Gen 1 to get Layla, the substitute character of Lean, and then to get Layla to visit a specific village. And last but not least, arguably the hardest of these kinds of items to get in this game is the Berserk Staff. First, you need to have Charlo in your party, who is also a substitute character if Sylvia didn't get married, as he replaces Corpora. Then, in Chapter 9, you need to conquer Grucia, after recruiting Hannibal by talking to him with Charlo first, which is a lot harder said than done, as Hannibal's recruitment is the hardest in the entire game. Hannibal and his platoon are stationed in front of Cappadocia, which is the castle between where you start and Lutetia, the castle you need to seize to recruit him, meaning you need to evade Hannibal and keep him from killing himself, which is easy for him to do because he sucks. That said, people usually just sleep him so he doesn't attack you. After Lutetia is captured, Charlo joins the party. Afterwards, you backtrack to Hannibal and have them speak. This will recruit Hannibal to the team. Once Grucia is then captured, you must place Charlo next to Hannibal and select Wait. This will trigger a conversation where Hannibal will give Charlo some staff he found randomly, and it happened to be the Berserk Staff. Thracia 776, the Nile Scroll. In Thracia 776, there are 3 weapons that are particularly difficult to come by. The first is the Nile Scroll. This scroll, which gives the user the ability to negate enemy in-combat skills, is only attainable from Connemore as an enemy. This becomes more complicated as, in Chapter 16a, Connemore will only appear here after 20 turns has passed from where you started. You can either steal it from him, or just kill him if you don't plan to recruit him. It's not a hard item to get, but it's very easily missable since it takes 20 turns for him to appear, and you may have just completed the chapter by then anyway. Dancer's Warp Staff and Master Seal. Chapter 12x has a strange and sort of challenging requirement to acquire a Master Seal and a Warp Staff. To get the Master Seal, no dancer enemy can be brought down to 0 HP. I specifically say this because capturing a dancer with a weapon equipped and bringing them down to 0 HP this way makes them not spawn either. If done successfully, one dancer will appear with a Knight Proof on Chapter 25, and if the conditions are still met by Chapter 30, a dancer will appear with the Warp Staff. Just be sure that the stairs in which they spawn are not blocked, otherwise you just wasted 30 turns for nothing. Member Card. If you recall my hilariously dumb character recruitment video, you'll remember the convoluted recruitment requirements for Xavier. You needed to rescue and bring the 8 villagers to their corresponding armor knights, which convinces Xavier to join. The member card requirement is a little different / arguably more annoying. You can't have any Leonster soldiers die. You can capture and release them, but none of them can be killed. This is never conveyed to you, but that's how you do it. Combined with the Xavier recruitment, Chapter 18 of FE5 is full of pain and suffering. Finally, Raydrik's Lockdeer Sword. It can be stolen to remove the +20 magic and damage negation that he has, but nobody can actually use his sword as it's a preference weapon to him. So the only reason you would steal his sword is to flex on your friends, or I guess more seriously, make the battle easier. But you will soon learn that it's probably just worth it to kill him instead. The first step is having one of your thieves steal from Raydrik. In FE5, stealing is sort of like trading once with an enemy and not being able to act out of it. So you trade a 2-range weapon, like an iron bow or a low-level tome onto him. Next, you place him in range of somebody. Raydrik will attack that unit at 2 range, disequipping his sword. The next step is the complicated part, because the sword itself is 20 weight. It is impossible to steal. Tina, the girl who can use the thief staff, can steal it from a distance. The reason why this can't be done off the bat is because when Raydrik has the sword equipped, his magic gets boosted much past 20 since the sword gives him +20 magic. So once he attacks in range, and if Tina has the magic stat to handle stealing the sword, you can now take his PRF that you can't use. Binding Blade. There's not a lot of terribly obscure or hard to access items or weapons in Binding Blade, besides Desert Treasure, which we're omitting for this entire video. But of all the weapons in the game, arguably the most difficult one to acquire is Forblaze, as unlocking the paralog to get it depends on whether you had Sophia survive in the chapter prior, which can be difficult as Sophia is complete dog breath of a unit. Not only that, but you need to complete this chapter in less than 25 turns. Blazing Sword. Uber Spear. The FE7 Uber Spear is a certified classic blazing sword weapon. The weapon, wielded by Veda during your time in Burn Keep, is a variation of the spear which gives its wielder various stat boosts. But by use of the Mind Glitch, which can exploit how the game remembers where you are upon suspending or resetting your game during a chapter after using a mine, you can gain control of enemies themselves. By creating a trade stream to an enemy unit with a droppable last item in their inventory, you can acquire this weapon for yourself. For more information on why this exploit exists in the first place, watch my video explaining this glitch in detail here. You can do something similar in FE8 with Gorgons to get the stone spells too. The FE7 Mario Kart Double Dash bonus disc items, the Emblem Weapons and the Emblem Seal, and 2 songs. In 2003, select retailers distributed a bonus content disc alongside pre-orders of Mario Kart Double Dash. This disc contained an array of playable demos, but one feature stuck out in particular for Fire Emblem Blazing Sword fans: the exclusive items available for transfer. By use of the disc and a link cable connection, the player could acquire items otherwise locked away in the game's files. The bonus disc didn't actually provide the cartridge any new content. These items were always in the game. The unique items provided were the emblem weapons, the sword, axe, lance, and bow, Additionally, the Emblem Seal, an item that gives plus 10% to both hit rate and avoid for whoever holds it. Funnily enough, this bonus disc was never available for Europe and Oceania, meaning that these items were impossible to achieve through any legitimate means if you lived there. Technically, if you still had this bonus disc of your own, you could still acquire these items with the needed hardware, and you can thank Saint Elamine for that too. Sacred Stones, Juna Fruit. Similar to the bonus disc, the Juna Fruit was only accessible from a Japanese promotional event called Jump Festa in late 2004. This item could be transferred via link cable once per save file. The item description is as follows. Permanently reduces user's level by 1 to 5, only usable by units at level 10 or higher. This item was therefore exclusive to Japan, and now there are no legitimate means to acquire the item, despite it being locked in the game's files, just like its counterparts in FE7. Path of Radiance, the Vag Kadi. I've deliberately omitted desert treasure items in this list since they all function the same, but an honorable mention goes to Stefan and the Vag Kadi. Stefan has the uniquely goofy accomplishment of being the only character in the series that is recruitable by standing on a certain tile in a map. If Leith or Mordecai are the ones to stand on this tile, he literally appears out of the ground, but joins with the Vag Kadi, an S-rank sword that is very, very good, sporting a high crit rate. If it's anyone else, he will just give you the sword itself. There is no in-game hint as to where to look, and so, similar to the item events of the Kaga era, he's easy to miss if you aren't following a guide. Rexaura. There is only one enemy bishop in Path of Radiance that has Rexaura, and there's only one playable character who can use it. Rice. It is in the final chapter of the game, and while completely unnecessary to acquire, it can be obtained anyway. It's just harder than one might think. You can't steal equipped weapons, like in Thracia 776, and this particular bishop doesn't have any other weapon to use. But for some inexplicable reason, when the bishop is silenced, then brought down to enough HP that he will use an elixir to heal, this combination will actually disequip the tome. The reason for why is still up in the air, but currently, this is the only way to get Rexaura in the game. It's weird. It doesn't make sense, and unless there's a resident FE9 AI expert in the comments, we won't ever know. Maniac Mode Laguz Stones. FE9 Maniac Mode is a difficulty exclusive to Japan, and in that mode, Laguz with blue, single-use Laguz stones will appear in Chapter 14. These Laguz stone variations function the exact same way as the normal orange ones, but they're blue and are one use. That is literally it. That's the only difference, but it is on this list because it cannot be obtained in international releases through any legitimate means. Radiant Dawn, the Ashera Staff. Getting the Ashera Staff is convoluted because getting Sephiroth recruited is convoluted. You will need to be on your second playthrough of the game. Then, the following chapter-specific conditions must be met. Use the Black Knight in the Part 1 finale, have Ike and the Black Knight fight in 3-7, and spare Peleus' life when the choice comes up. If these are all satisfied, then you can recruit Sephiroth and acquire the Ashera Staff at the beginning of the endgame, which, like the greatest staves in the game before it, fully heals everyone on the map. Bolting and Venom weapons. There are only 2 boltings in Radiant Dawn, and if you want them, you need to go out of your way for them as it requires a beefy Heather. By using Disarm with Heather, and having at least 20 strength by Chapter 3-2, she can disarm the bolting user and then steal his tome. Nazir's SS Strike Breath weapon. So this isn't hard per se, but some background. Laguz weapon types are called strikes, and like any other weapon types, they can be leveled up by grinding. The minimum strike rank is A, and then S, and then SS. Each level up adds 5 might. And in the case of Dragon Strike weapons, hit rate as well, and it takes 80 attacks to get a level up. Nazir's SS Strike rank is particularly unique, end quote, because of how unlikely the usual player will actually end up seeing it being attained. Nazir's White Breath targets resistance, unlike the other breaths in the game. Also, Nazir is often used in a supportive role from his skill, White Pool. You also only have 2 chapters for Nazir to attack magic-using enemies 80 times to get the SS rank, which is kind of a giant waste of time. It's worth noting that Gareth also suffers from this issue, but at least you may come across SS Strike rank Red Breath from Ina. All said, SS Strike White Breath is rare because you really need to go out of your way to hit things 80 times with a unit that folds to physical damage within 2 chapters of relatively low enemy density, who is better off supporting other characters anyway. Shadow Dragon, the Elysian Whip. So, Falco Knights in FE11 aren't typically accessible, as Pegasus Knights only promote into Wyvern Lords. By use of the Nintendo DS Wi-Fi connection, you could access FE11 and FE12's online shops, which are armories ran by a lady named Larabelle. This shop contained many items, including an Elysian whip, used to promote Pegasus Knights into Falco Knights. This online shop was the only way for Shadow Dragon players to access the Falco Knight class, but once the DS Wi-Fi online service ended, so too did the ability to access the shop on physical copies of Shadow Dragon. Nowadays, the only way to get the Elysian Whip legitimately is by playing the Wii U Virtual Console version, which has the online shop readily available. Awakening. There aren't too many terribly difficult to obtain weapons in Awakening, but those that stick out are as follows. First, the Goddess Staff is acquirable in Paralog 14. To obtain it, the player must visit all 4 villages, then must wait 1 space left and 2 spaces down from the starting position of the boss. The Mistletoe, Owain's signature sword, is possible to miss, as Owain needs to speak with a sage on his map. I suppose we should also give a nod to the random event/barracks items that are everywhere in this game. While the exact drop rates are unknown, some items are less common than others. Maybe one day, we'll discover which one of these items is the rarest to receive. Fates, the Toga of Love. The Toga of Love is an accessory that is only accessible after filling the 3rd and final heart in the bonding meter with a character in My Castle. While not uncommon to do with a character one might like, this item was actually removed in international versions of the game. Indeed, this item, which is merely an accessory in the game, is not obtainable through legitimate means if you're playing internationally. The Battle/Visitation Seal. Avid My Castle enthusiasts will remember the My Castle item rewards purchased from Renown in Fates. The more castle battles done, and the more other players visited your castle, the more specific renown you would get, capping at 9,999. The Battle Seal would provide a passive +2 buff to strength, magic, speed, and skill, while the Visitation Seal would provide the same buff to defense, resistance, and luck. While it was much easier to attain back in Fates' heyday, nowadays, good luck getting that amount of people to visit your castle in 2021. Echoes. As mentioned earlier, the drop rates on Echoes' rare items and weapons is still quite uncommon to receive in this game compared to Gaiden, but there are still some uniquely rare, and now discontinued items to receive in Echoes. The Draco Shield. With careful planning, Desai's Draco Shield, just like in Gaiden, is obtainable upon his defeat, but it does require effort and patience, and an understanding of how the enemy AI prioritizes things. You can also cheese the challenge entirely by killing all of his soldiers and then retreating and re-entering the battle, which then only requires you to keep Slade distracted as you bring down Desai, as Desai will leave the map if he's the only enemy left on the map. But when acquired this early on, the Draco Shield will provide great defensive buffs for a while. Finally, in perhaps the strangest and most random collaboration of all time, Intelligent Systems and 7-Eleven. Yes, 7-Eleven, the convenience store chain, worked together. Between the 24th of May and the 31st of July, players could download a special item daily by using the in-store 7-spot Wi-Fi. These include an exclusive sword and shield, as well as 6 provisional items. The 7 sword and the 11 shield would literally buff themselves up between turns 7 and 11. Fully forged, the default might on the sword is 7. When the buff hits, the might is boosted to 14. The 11 shield starts with 4 defense and 7 res, and when their buff hits, they're boosted to 8 and 6 respectively. So yeah, at some point 4 years ago, some Japanese Fire Emblem player could actually say they pulled into a 7-Eleven to pick up snacks, drinks, and weaponry, and they wouldn't be lying. 3 houses. I have already highlighted the following 2 items in FE3H in my 2 previous trivia videos, so to those who have been watching my stuff recently, thank you by the way, keep doing that, 2 of these will come as no surprise. But to those new to the channel, allow me to introduce you to the Tathlum Bow, the White Dragon Scarf, and the Venom Stone. The Tathlum Bow is an A-rank Azure Moon exclusive bow that is enhanced when the wearer has the Crest of Lamine by gradually healing them. It's both rare and not rare. The bow has weirdly specific, but not incredibly stringent requirements to obtain, leading the player to randomly stumble across it, while other players struggle to get it consistently on runs. For one, the weapon can only be obtained in Chapter 18 of Azure Moon. Second, the westernmost enemy warlock on the map using a fire orb, and the giant robot next to it on hard and maddening difficulty has to be defeated. Third, one of your units has to enter the 3x3 square where a grappler is/was located on the northern side of the map. If all three conditions were met, then a level 50 sniper holding the bow will pop up next to the fire orb from where the warlock once was, and will begin fleeing towards the map's exit. From there, just kill him. The bow itself, while inexplicably specific to get, kind of sucks anyway. It's not that good, and Mercedes is the only one who can use it without the New Game Plus crests, since Thracia is exclusive to Crimson Flower. So unless you're randomly building a physical sniper Mercedes, the bow is pretty garbage. The White Dragon Scarf. This item grants any unit wielding it +2 in charm, working the same way as the pendant/brooch/bracelet your chosen house leader gifts you on Byleth's birthday. While it doesn't seem like a big deal, players may not realize it exists, or they have it in one playthrough but don't have it in another. The only way to get one of these in a playthrough is if 1. You choose to rescue Flame during Chapter 6's first Monastery Exploration week, or 2. If Byleth's birthday was set between the 1st and the 31st of March during Silver Snow, so either Rhea or Flame will gift it to them depending if it happens pre or post timeskip. The Venom Stone. The Venom Stone is a 5-star ore item which is required for forging iron weapons into poisonous ones which inflict poison status upon contact, such as the Venom Edge. It's a very rare material in the game, and without Three Houses expansion pass, they are practically mandatory if you want to get a hold of one of those weapons. While the exact drop rates haven't been data mined as of this video, one can very rarely obtain Venom Stones after destroying all the barriers of a wild demonic beast or a giant crawler. Though given the sandworms not only spawn rarely in auxiliary maps and only in the desert map, their only main story appearance happens in Claude's Paralogue, which is a Verdant Wind exclusive. Getting them via Wild Demonic Beast is the most likely opportunity you can get. But if you do have the DLC pass, there's a chance one of the monastery animals will gift a Venom Stone to you after feeding them, usually with the Brigid Short Hair, an Ordelian Hound, or an Ire Hound. Well everyone, off script Gast here, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video till the end. This video was really fun to make, but surprisingly really hard to do, as it required some coordination to get different types of footage. I had to learn how to hack 3DS games again, and that was fun, I guess, and I learned some cool things too. And also I had to just do a lot of homework on how to actually get these items and try them myself, so I actually knew what I was talking about. Basically, this video took a while and took a lot out of me, but I'm really happy with how it came out. So if you could please leave a like and comment down below if there are any of these items or weapons that you didn't know about yourself that you think is pretty cool. Or if there are any that I omitted or that you thought deserved to be on this list, let me know as well. And finally, if you want to support the channel and you really like where this scripted content is going, please consider subscribing if you haven't yet. We're very close to 90,000 subscribers, which is really sick. It'd be really awesome to get there. And yeah, but I guess while we're here, I'll let you guys know that I actually started a new YouTube channel. This is called Bad Wishes, and it's my very casual gacha channel where I talk about Fae and Genshin Impact and potentially Honkai Star Rail when that comes out like next year or whatever. Basically, it's a really casual like reaction channel that I want to start doing because I want to do stuff like that too, but I want to not do that on the main channel because that would be a terrible idea to do. If you guys want to see more content of mine that is much more on the casual side and is just kind of like slight hype beasting or reacting to stuff, go to Bad Wishes. That'd be awesome if you did that. And finally, if you want to support the channel in other ways, I do have a Patreon as well. With that all being said, thank you all so much for watching, and please have a good rest of your weekend. Deuces.